When the president signed the executive order terminating the unconstitutional view that citizenship is a birthright, it didn't take long for the lawsuits to fly. Now, with those suits, however, came courts attempting to stop the president using universal injunctions. Plaintiffs, respondents here, individuals, organizations, and states filed 3 separate suits to enjoin the implementation and enforcement of President Trump's Executive Order 14160. The executive order identifies circumstances in which a person born in the United States is not subject to the jurisdiction thereof and is thus not recognized as an American citizen. The executive order doesn't make up the circumstances of birthright citizenship. It merely implements what the Constitution and U.S. law already say. The 14th Amendment has always excluded from birthright citizenship persons who are born in the United States but not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Consistent with this understanding, the Congress has further specified through legislation that a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a national and citizen of the United States at birth. That's from Title 8, Section 1401 of the United States Code. Now, this generally mirrors the 14th Amendment's text. As it plainly states, this executive order only identifies what common sense and the explanation of Senator Jacob Howard Merritt, the person who submitted the text and subject to the jurisdiction thereof to the joint resolution that would eventually become the 14th Amendment. That means foreigners and aliens do not have a right to citizenship at birth. This amendment, which I have offered, is merely declaratory of what I regard as the law of the land already, that every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to their jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law and national law a citizen of the United States. This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of person. Of course, that little detail has not stopped plaintiffs and courts at all levels from claiming differently. The plaintiffs allege that the executive order violates the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause, Section 1 and 201 of the Nationality Act of 1940. There are numerous problems with the plaintiff's allegation. First, that it violates the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Clearly, as I've already shown, to be a citizen if you are born in the United States, you must be subject to it as well. Congress agreed with this when they passed the Nationality Act of 1940. The following shall be nationals and citizens of the United States at birth: a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Not only does the executive order state the language of the 14th Amendment and U.S. law, but the policy it put forth merely implements what the Constitution and law state. It is the policy of the United States that no department or agency of the United States government shall issue documents recognizing United States citizenship or accept documents issued by state, local, or other governments or authorities purporting to recognize United States citizenship to persons when that person's mother was unlawfully present in the United States and the person's father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of said birth, or when that person's mother's presence in the United States was lawful but temporary and the person's father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of said person's birth. Before we get too deep into this opinion, let's be specific about what the court is being asked. The court did not decide the question of birthright citizenship, no matter how many news outlets reported it did so. The question before the court was one of injunctions. In each case, the district court entered a universal injunction, an injunction barring executive officials from applying the executive order to anyone, not just the plaintiffs. And in each case, the Court of Appeals denied the government's request to stay the sweeping relief. The government argues that the district courts lacked equitable authority to impose universal relief and has filed 3 nearly identical emergency applications seeking partial stays to limit the preliminary injunctions to the plaintiffs in each case. The applications do not raise, and thus the court does not address, the question of whether the executive order violates the Citizenship Clause or Nationality Act. Instead, the issue the court decides is whether, under the Judiciary Act of 1789, federal courts have equitable authority to issue universal injunctions. The Trump administration asked for a stay of these lower court injunctions on the basis that they exceeded the authority vested in those courts by Congress in the Judiciary Act of 1789.